On a quiet Friday night, just as the clock struck midnight, I sat at the dining table catching up on work tasks, while my husband William was absorbed in an online game in the living room. Out of nowhere, as casually as if he were talking about the weather, William brought up the idea of living apart. I was shocked and asked him to explain, especially since we had been experiencing difficulties in our marriage lately. I'm Julie, and it was my 33rd birthday. In the midst of undergoing fertility treatments, William's unexpected proposal felt like a bombshell, a harsh and surprising twist on what was already a challenging day. Without looking away from his game, he remarked, "You're 33 now, right? Even if you do get pregnant, it would be a high-risk pregnancy. I've decided I don't want to pursue having children anymore. That's why I'm planning to move back with my mom." His words made no sense to me, creating a baffling disconnect between his decision to give up on having children and moving in with his mother. We had only been married for a couple of years, initially hoping to enjoy our early days as newlyweds. Yet, influenced by his family, William is the youngest of three, with each of his older brothers having 3 children. They often advised him that it's best to have kids while young and full of energy. Buoyed by this counsel, we were eager and tried enthusiastically to start our own family, but a year passed with no success. At one point, William's patience wore thin. "You need to get this checked out," he demanded abruptly one day. Confused, I asked, "Check what?" He snapped back, "Find out why we're not having kids. There must be something wrong with you." His words stung with an unfair accusation, leaving me infuriated. Despite the turmoil in our marriage, I decided to visit a gynecologist to confirm whether I had any medical issues that might be complicating our efforts to conceive. To my dismay, the tests revealed that there were indeed factors making conception difficult for me. The diagnosis came as a complete shock. I had experienced no prior symptoms, and the news was totally unexpected. Dr. Arthur explained that while challenging, it wasn't impossible for me to conceive naturally. However, the thought of sharing this news with William felt daunting. That evening, as I tried to calmly discuss the situation over dinner, William's reaction was far from supportive. He seemed almost triumphant, as if vindicated. "I knew it was you," he said smugly. Trying to assert myself, I replied, "But I can still get pregnant." His response was icy and dismissive. "No, it hasn't happened yet, so it's not going to," he concluded rashly. My frustration boiled over. "For all we know, you could be the one with the problem," I countered, my voice raising in anger. William retorted loudly, "Julie, the results are clear, yet you still try to blame me? Unbelievable." In a fit of rage, he slammed his hands on the table, causing me to flinch. "You're just a failure who can't have kids," he spat before storming off to the bedroom. Left alone, tears streamed down my face as I cleaned up the dishes. I rationalized that he was just shocked and had lashed out in the heat of the moment. Clinging to the hope that having a child could mend our relationship, I resolved to try even harder. I began visiting the gynecologist regularly, educating myself more about our situation. Yet, despite my increased understanding and timing our attempts on the most likely days for conception, we still had no success. The strain of our challenges and the growing anxiety weighed heavily on me, making each passing day more difficult. I found myself consumed with the desire to conceive. One morning, with cautious optimism, I broached the subject with William, suggesting we try again that night. His reaction, however, was dismissive and tinged with disdain. "Isn't it embarrassing to bring up such a topic first thing in the morning?" he chided. I felt my cheeks warm with embarrassment, but I persisted, trying to maintain a gentle tone. "You want children too, right?" But William's response was chillingly indifferent. "Honestly, I don't even want kids. They're too expensive. I only considered it because my brother said a man isn't truly an adult until he has a wife and kids. But now, with this excuse from you, I couldn't care less." From then on, whenever I tried to initiate anything, William would dismiss me, claiming he was either too busy or too tired. His growing obsession with online gaming kept him up late into the night, further distancing him from me both emotionally and physically. It felt as though he had lost interest not only in the idea of having children, but in our relationship as well. Despite the challenges, I continued my visits to the gynecologist. The fertility clinic was a hub of activity, always crowded, with a typical wait time of 2 hours, even with an appointment. There was a strange comfort in seeing so many other couples facing similar struggles, all hoping for a chance at parenthood. Occasionally, I witnessed couples emerge from the doctor's office with tears of joy, the women tenderly touching their still flat bellies, their partners by their sides. Witnessing their happiness deepened my longing. I too wanted a child, hoping it might rekindle William's affection and bring some joy back into my life. I clung to the fragile hope that becoming a parent would mend our strained relationship, but it felt increasingly like hitting a roadblock. The journey was wearing me down, but I held on to hope, desperate for a change that might bring us back together. When I discovered that moving forward with more advanced fertility treatments would require William to undergo tests, I realized it might now be impossible to proceed. Each walk back from the clinic left me feeling increasingly desolate, often on the verge of tears. As I merged into the bustling main street one day, my gaze landed on an elderly woman dressed in flamboyant attire. Her thick makeup and brightly colored dress stood out dramatically, and though she was a stranger to me, there was something oddly familiar about her presence that distracted me from my sorrow. Could that be my mother-in-law? I stared in disbelief. Despite living in the same city, our paths seldom crossed, and she looked entirely different from how I remembered. Yet the distinctive mole on her cheek confirmed her identity. Known for her modest, typical grandmotherly attire, her radical change in appearance was utterly shocking. I quickly blended into the crowd, hoping to avoid any interaction. My mother-in-law has always been quite a character, indulgent with herself but harshly critical of others. She's infamous for her blunt and often shocking remarks. Favoring her youngest son, William, she treats her other children more like financial resources than loved ones, which has earned her the disdain of her other sons. When my father-in-law was dying of cancer last year, there was speculation about her moving in with one of her sons. Both the eldest and the second son refused outright. We half expected her to turn to us, but instead, she declared she would live alone while she was still healthy, possibly out of spite, or simply adhering to her nature. After my father-in-law's passing, she caused a scene, accusing everyone of being ungrateful and stealing an old woman's retirement money. She took all his inheritance without sharing it, despite attempts by my brothers-in-law and William to legally divide it. No one could prevail against her resolve, leaving a rift that extended beyond family finances into the deeper fibers of our family dynamics. She bluntly told me, "I have no interest in getting along with you, so don't come to my house." Despite her usual conflicts with my sister-in-law, this encounter was surprisingly calm. She didn't notice me that day and quickly vanished into a nearby store. Her appearance was so out of character that I found myself staring in disbelief at the store sign, pondering the transformation. That evening, I contemplated discussing her unusual behavior with William, but ultimately decided against it. With my father-in-law gone, she was navigating life on her terms, and it didn't feel right to comment on her personal choices. Over the following months, I occasionally spotted her but chose to stay out of her way. As my birthday neared, William broached the topic of moving out. "Is there someone else you're interested in?" I asked, half wondering if his mention of living with his mother was a cover for other plans, perhaps even remarriage. Given his daily gaming marathons at home, it seemed unlikely he was involved with someone else. His explanation caught me off guard. "Well, there's a girl in my gaming group I kinda like, but it's just online. For all I know, she could be a guy pretending to be a girl." His response made the whole situation feel even more ludicrous. If he could be so discerning about his online relationships, why the sudden desire to move out? It made no sense to me. William simply reiterated, "I just want to live with my mom more than I want to live with you." His preference baffled me, and with a heavy heart, I asked, "Have you come to dislike me and lost your love for me?" Voicing the question was painful, and I braced for his response while trying to hold back my sadness. "Not really," William replied nonchalantly, as if our marital struggles were no more significant than a minor inconvenience. "Like I said before, I don't care about having kids anymore. What we need is a different financial strategy." Confused, I repeated, "Financial strategy?" His calm nod and serious tone took me by surprise. "Yeah, it's about my mom's inheritance." I was left puzzled, struggling to connect the dots between our marital issues, his relationship with his mother, and now a sudden financial strategy revolving around an inheritance. His brothers were labeled as greedy, but it seemed there was more beneath the surface that William wasn't fully disclosing. They concoct any reason, like having more children, to claim a bigger portion of mom's inheritance, and I won't allow that, William disclosed bluntly. I was taken aback by his stark admission, but kept my thoughts to myself. "But your mother is in great health. Isn't it premature to discuss her inheritance?" I queried. William's explanation was cold and calculated. "That's precisely the point. She dislikes you but favors me. Living with her now could position me advantageously for the inheritance, especially since it's a significant fortune my dad left her. We could live comfortably without much effort since we don't have children to support us in our old age." Horrified by his rationale, I confronted him. "So, you wanted children because you needed them to care for us later, and now that's not an option. You're chasing a larger share of your mother's inheritance?" I hoped my assumption was incorrect, seeking some reassurance from William, but his reply only confirmed my worst fears. "Exactly. Children are meant to look after their parents. By living with my mom now, I might even secure the entire inheritance," he stated, demonstrating his strong allegiance to his mother and a stark disregard for fairness. I remained silent, deeply feeling the weight of his familial obligations. William continued, "When mom passes, I'll move back in with you. You may not be able to have kids, but you're good at housework and you bring in a decent salary. You're useful as a housekeeper." Stunned by his demeaning view, I couldn't hold back my frustration any longer. "Let's get a divorce," I blurted out, my exasperation overriding his remarks. Who would accept such terms? To live separately and then reunite later was insulting. I knew William, the pampered youngest son, had his flaws, but this selfish strategy was beyond forgiveness. I realized that continuing with him would never bring me happiness, and at that moment, my affection for William dissipated entirely. "Let's get a lawyer to divide our assets and finalize the divorce," I declared. "I never mentioned anything about divorcing, just living separately is fine. Hiring a lawyer seems excessive," William retorted, suddenly flustered. But then, pausing as if rethinking his stance, William added, "No, you'll be better off as a single man too. I won't be satisfied unless everything is divided fairly and legally. Having a third party involved will also ensure there are no lingering issues, right?" William gave a wry smirk. "Maybe you're right. If I get a large portion of mom's inheritance, I'll be set for the future and could even remarry. Just don't regret this." "Don't count your chickens before they hatch," I replied firmly. "Make sure you have no regrets." The next day, I contacted a lawyer recommended by a friend who had recently gone through a divorce and arranged a consultation. I also informed our landlord that William would be the one moving out and started organizing with a moving company. While making these arrangements, I overheard William on the phone telling his mother, "I want to live with you and take care of you." I was astounded that he had suggested moving out before even discussing it with her. According to William, his mother was thrilled about the arrangement and had a few requests of her own. Surprisingly, the divorce preparations went smoother than anticipated. Originally, our assets were to be split evenly, but my sharp lawyer negotiated a better deal for me, securing 80% of the assets, including compensation, given William's selfish motives for our split. I decided not to hold back and claimed what I was rightfully entitled to. 4 days after our divorce was finalized, William returned to his family home. I was settling into my new apartment when my phone rang. It was William, his voice frantic and desperate. "Help me, please, let's get married again. There's no inheritance. Mom spent it all on lavish trips and extravagant shopping. She's broke and deep in debt. Even the house is mortgaged." "Well, that's unfortunate. Your mom had a thing for those strip clubs," I said, struggling to keep from laughing. Just days before, I had seen my former mother-in-law heading into a strip club. Out of curiosity, I had peeked at the price list and was astounded by the amounts. She had been frequenting the place for some time, spending a small fortune. With William increasingly lost in his online gaming and seldom visiting her, she had grown infatuated with a stripper and had squandered not only my father-in-law's inheritance but also her retirement savings, racking up considerable debt. "Why didn't you tell me if you knew?" William demanded. "I don't criticize personal hobbies. I never stopped you from gaming, did I?" I shot back. William hesitated, then tried to change the subject. "She's asking me to take out loans in my name, but that's not feasible. Could you give me the money from our property division if we get back together? It's both of our money, right?" "Absolutely not." "Why not? You still care about me, don't you? Your husband is in trouble here. I did love you when we were married, but when you suggested moving out, any affection I had for you vanished completely. Especially now when it's clear you're only after money, there's no chance we're getting back together." "But my mom's demanding that I give her all my salary. She says it's only natural for children to support their parents. She was always so kind to me alone," William whined pathetically. But his and his mother's entitlement, that they should come first and disregard everyone else's needs, was no longer something I could tolerate. After my divorce was finalized, I made it clear to my ex-husband, William, that we were now strangers and his family's issues were no longer my concern. I firmly told him this before ending the call and blocking his number. Feeling a need to close this chapter of my life, I reached out to my former sisters-in-law. Despite it being just 4 days since the divorce, the situation felt urgent. I briefed them on everything about my former mother-in-law and the divorce specifics. They sympathized and assured me they would handle things with William. Shortly after our conversation, my former brothers-in-law caused a stir at the family home, a fact I learned from one of the sisters-in-law. This prompted me to change the locks on my apartment, prioritizing my safety. The need for a fresh start was becoming clearer by the moment, and I began hunting for a new place to live. In my search, I stumbled upon the fact that the family home was on the market. While I could have reached out to learn more about William and his mother's situation, I chose instead to focus on my future. I'm now looking for a pet-friendly apartment, envisioning a peaceful life ahead, perhaps with a new cat to keep me company. This move symbolizes my readiness to leave the past behind and embrace a new beginning.